and every kind of Christmas time, they put up a big Christmas tree. So that happened last week, and I went to see the big Christmas tree, and it's 18 meters tall and super pretty. And so I guess that's one nice thing. What about you guys?
Can I just give a quick feedback? That's awesome. And I mean, I have the same things. We have a lot of deadlines, and also the university stuff is like kind of a lot. And yeah, Christmas trees, yeah, really cool. I can say that I've put on my lights, a lot of lights in my room, and that makes me a little bit more happy because it's like dark and cold. So yeah, I'm like bringing some more lights in my life with that. So yeah.
Well, I have Christmas lights in my room all year around, so nothing changed for me much. But we don't have Christmas trees around the town yet. I guess it will only start like around this week. Well, I'm not a student anymore, but nevertheless, a week ago I took an exam, and a Cambridge exam in methods of teaching English. I was preparing for quite some time, I guess about month or something, and it wasn't like exams from university for me. It was cool to prepare for, and yeah, I took it, but I don't know the results yet. It is quite significant because I guess it is improvement in professional sphere and just doing having aim and reaching it.
What's your profession?
Well, I am an English teacher.
I hope it went well, the exam. Do you have any idea when you'll hear something about results?
I guess it will be results will be ready in the middle of December, and 31st of December I will hopefully get my certificate. So this is my New Year present. But I feel really good about it.
Cool.
I think it went well.
Cool. Oля, will you tell something else?
Yeah, so the task is to tell about significant things. Yeah, this is very difficult because this is like crazy time, and when it comes to November and December, usually this is about like closing all the projects, writing reports, and running all possible meetings ever, because of which were postponed 100 times, of course. But if not to talk about the work, but about my local YMCA, recently we have become the part of the network of UNESCO learning cities. Have you heard about such the network? So me neither. So I actually we learned about it approximately a year ago, and in my city the organizations, different organizations which are dealing with education, business, non-governmental, governmental, so they decided that they're interested in such kind of network dealing with education, and then we have seen the opportunity of being part of the global UNESCO network of learning cities. If you Google it, you will find a lot of the information. It's quite broad and popular, as it occurred to be. Yeah, so we have become the members and received a kind of a certificate even that we are. So let's see what it will give to us, but that was something different from the daily routine.
That's cool.
Yes.
So the time is out, and we need to close the rooms. And we have 30 seconds to finish conversation, if you want.
Good luck to you with your exams, girls.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good luck with everything you are doing. This is true.
We are like 3/4 of us are speaking the same language in this session.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's true. So yeah. If you knew. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for participation. Please show the reaction with the hand or with the Zoom reaction. How did you like the conversation with the teammates?
I was the least interesting in my group.
So Adam is laughing. It looks like that was a really good conversation. And you have smiles on your faces. This is the most important. Great, thank you so much for the interaction. So today we have like the last tough theoretical press session where we are describing, where we give you theoretical input, so to support your work on the project design. And before we go to risk assessment and budget, so let's make a very short overview of the previous homework that you have done already, that was about sustainability and evaluation. Give me a moment, please. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So, and we want actually to start with some kind encouragement and congratulation you with the quite a big piece of work that you have done already, because you have done quite much. You have identified the problem, yeah, the target groups. You were thinking to make your project as relevant as possible. You have set the goal. You have set the SMART objectives with the deadlines. Most of you already have quite a definite plan of activities with expected results and impacts. Yeah, and you already started thinking about the evaluation and sustainability. And please recall the video that Francesca has shown us today, because what the lady was telling to us, that forget the fear, forget the doubt, and congratulations. So please encourage yourself, because of the work that you are doing. This is an important work. Keep doing, don't give up, even if you feel that sometimes it's difficult, that sometimes not everything is ideal, sometimes we are giving too much feedback to you. Do not be discouraged, please keep doing. We are with you. You are doing great. Yeah, and I wanted to stop a little bit about on the key challenges on monitoring and evaluation first. And the main, that there are two parts that it is important to discuss, to describe there, is about what and how. Yeah, so sometimes you were telling only what you are going to monitor and evaluate, but you were forgetting how you're going to do. You did not give any examples of means of verifications, or vice versa. You were providing the means of verification, like, okay, that would be questionnaires, interviews, but you didn't describe what you are going to monitor. And as always, we are telling this is very important to keep the logic, yeah, direct connection of problem, goal, objectives, activities, results, and monitoring and evaluation. So that should be very, very straight mathematical formula. Yeah, the logic should be very strong. And as always, please be precise and specific. And just to make sure, I have made a very simple example for you, yeah, how it can look like. Like, for example, for the objective, raising level awareness about gender equality, for example, among students of the CTA, you want to introduce internet campaign, internet info campaign, yeah, as activity. Yeah, and as a result, you expect that students will raise their level of knowledge, and students will be involved in the discussion of this topic. And indicate, so answer like what? You are providing some numbers, like, for example, you want to have this number of people to be involved. You expect that some of them will be engaged in commenting and sharing, And some of them will even provide some personal stories, some examples of gender inequality they met and how it influenced them, or gender equality they met and how it impacted them. Yeah, and here you can see like the logic of the connection of activity results of what and how. Yeah, so how are you going to measure it? Yeah, and, you can count number of likes and views. You can count number of comments and shares. You can, of course, collect all personal stories and provide them as evidence that that people are really involved and engaged in this process. If you have any questions, comments, please stop me, because I'm going to speak about the sustainability. Nothing appears in the chat. No one shouts. So, and with the sustainability, and like I would like to mention only two key things. The first one, this is crucial to describe sustainability part if you are asked by donors, because you will probably not find this part in every project application, but quite many donors ask them. And if they do, please really think about it, because it means that this is a very important information for the donors. And also, please keep in mind that sustainability is not only about the finances. This is not only about how you are going to manage your project financially when it is over. And I want to remind us all that we can keep different kind of areas in our head when we are describing sustainability part. You can make a kind of the checklist, you know, okay, let's think about people. Will we have new people? Will they stay with us? Will these people be educated? Okay, if yes, please describe this the same. Are we going to purchase any equipment? Is it going to serve us later? Yes. What about knowledge? What about methodology? Are we going to elaborate any kind of new methods? Are we going to use them later as well? Yeah, sure, perfect. What about our brand, our image? We are going to advertise much. And of course, like, people will continue knowing us. What about organizational development? Yeah, for example, you will develop strategic plan, or you will make the analysis of organization, and it will all serve you later. The same is about program and services. Yeah, they will be new ones, will be elaborated, tested, yeah, and it will serve you later as well. So think about different areas of your work, but not only finances. So these are small tips how to make the description of your project applications even more brighter. Any questions, any comments? Hesitations? Disagreements? All right, so thank you so much for this part of the work. And as you understand, yeah, the next step will be to elaborate the risk assessment part, and also to provide the budget finally. And to talk about the risk assessment, I'm giving the floor to Matthew. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Hello everyone, hopefully you can hear me okay. I am at work, but I should be completely free to just focus in on the risk assessments part. So before I start sharing my screen, going through risk assessments, I just want to check where people are at with risk assessments. So the simple question I'll have, and if you can maybe just use the Zoom reactions, the thumbs up thing, who has done a risk assessment, or who's done risk assessments before? If you have, could you just put like a wee thumbs up? So we see Jasmine, Kimberly, any type of risk assessments in your YMCA, your work. Ian. Okay. Okay. Useful. All right. So some people have got a bit of knowledge about risk assessments already. Some people are coming in fairly new. So when we speak about risk assessments, probably worth me sharing my screen just now. So 2 seconds. I'll share that one now. Go into that, and then we'll go into presentation. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now with the title Risk Assessments. So when we talk about risk assessments, I'm imagining it can sound quite scary, especially if you've probably not done risk assessments before. Okay. Risk assessments, when I first started to do them, they were scary. I didn't really know what to expect. I was a little bit actually thrown into the deep end, and there was all these templates, all this stuff to look at, and it was a little bit daunting. So I'll be honest, that was how I was feeling with it all. But fortunately enough, I didn't have, well, unfortunately at the time, I didn't have a resource like Leadership Academy to take me through this, like you guys will. So what I'm going to say before we dive into this is keep an open mind. Don't be scared about risk assessments. And we're going to keep it nice and short, nice and simple, so you're able to at least get the knowledge of risk assessments, and then you can develop that later on as you will start to use them a little bit more. Okay, so it's not going to be massive iceberg type stuff. It's going to be everything that you need in order to get you started, keeping it nice and simple. Okay, so perfect. All right, so what is a risk assessment? So the simplest way of thinking about it is a careful examination of what in your work or project could cause harm, so that you can weigh up whether you have taken enough precautions or should do more to eliminate or prevent harm. Okay, so in this little paragraph is talking about harm. What in your project or work could cause harm? You can weigh up whether you've taken enough precautions or should do more to prevent or eliminate harm. Okay. Now, when we think about risk assessments, we're probably thinking about people in our projects. So what's the risk to me? What's the risk to you? But what we're going to look at today is a risk assessment that covers, in this context, your whole project. So for me, as a youth worker in the YMCA, I work with people. So a lot of my risk assessments are going to be focused on working alongside people. So what is the risk to me? What is the risk to that person if I work with them on a one-to-one? Because I am a worker. I'm a youth worker within YMCA Tayside. For my boss, or let's say the chief executive or the national general secretary, however you want to look at it, somebody that's maybe got more of an oversight, this is the type of risk assessment that we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at risk completely. Okay, so the risk to people, the risk to the organization, the risk financially, and the risk to groups and so on. We'll go over it. Okay, so let me just make sure I can see everything on my screen. So, key reasons why risk assessments are done. 2 seconds, I just want to make sure I'm able to see everything because at the moment it's not quite working. Okay, so you can read it off the screen. We do risk assessments for legal, moral, financial reasons. Make sure that you're successful, and for sustainability reasons. So Olga just went through some of the feedback from the previous sessions, and I wrote down, as Olga was talking, that risk assessments relate to sustainability. And hopefully you'll be able to see that connection as we go through this slideshow. So legal, remember, this is not just you looking at a risk assessment based off a worker This is us looking at risk assessments from the top down, so to speak. So you're looking at everything about your project, not just the people that you're working with. It's also, you're doing it in the context of YMCA Finland or YMCA Italy or whatever it may be. So legal, does your project do any harm to the organization or the people within it? Okay, because there's a legal aspect to the work that you're going to be doing. Moral, some people may not really use this word every now and then, but does your project knowingly put people in harm's way? So if that's the case, and we'll go on to how we measure risk, but if that's the case, why are you doing that project if it's knowingly putting people in harm's way? Also, financially, is your project worth investing in? So if I am the big boss of YMCA Tayside, and I'm thinking about a project that I want to maybe bring to the organization, but if I deliver this project, it's actually going to cause more harm to my organization than it's actually going to do good. It's going to deplete the funds. It's going to deplete all of our reserves if we try to deliver this. It's actually causing more harm. And what I mean by reserves is a term that we use. It's money put aside that's maybe not used all the time. So there's a financial risk as well when you're doing your projects. Is it actually going to cause more financial harm? Is it actually worth investing in? Is it going to cost a lot of money, but actually not have the payoff, which means it's maybe not a good risk to take. Successful, can your project realistically achieve its planned impacts? As if it's not, then again, you need to be asking yourself, how can I either overcome this? Why am I doing it? And so on. Can your project realistically achieve its planned impacts? And sustainable, just the last one. Will the impact of your project last even past the due date? Now, we've talked a little bit about sustainability already. What I've noticed, just personal experience with working with donors, working with funders, is they're always looking for, yes, this is a good project, but is it sustainable? Is it going to have a lasting impact even past the 1 year that we're going to give you this money for? So if your project is all good in 1 year, is it actually going to, what's going to happen after that? What's the impact after the project? Is there a risk that the project and the work is going to be meaningless after that, let's say that 1 year that a funder has given you money for, or a donor has given you funds for? So when we look at risk assessments, we're looking at the legal aspect, the moral aspect, the financial aspect. Is it a success? Will it be successful? And is it sustainable? We're not just focusing on here on just the people aspect. We're focusing on a lot more. Does that make sense so far? If so, maybe give me a thumbs up. And if not, I don't know, give me a thumbs down, as harsh as that may seem. Okay, we're seeming to be doing okay just now. Just for myself, I realize that some of this may be alien to you guys. It might be completely new. It's still good to understand some of the theory and at least hear it. And then you can go away as we do and kind of absorb it in your own time. So I'm not expecting everybody to be able to understand this straight away because it can take time. We all learn differently. Okay. So risk assessment themes. Risks from external environments, and then we're going to go on to internal environments. Okay. So where are your risks coming from? External environments and internal. So for external, we've got politics. These are only some that we've that I've brought up now. We've got politics, social and cultural trends, economics, health, and technology as some examples here. Politics is a change of power, revolutions. That's a national and oh, sorry, 2 seconds. Closing and NGOs. So that these are risks that could happen that you can think about when you're putting in risk assessments or reviewing risks as part of your projects. These might not apply to your work, but it's still worthwhile keeping them going through it and keeping it in mind. Social and cultural trends are stuff like an aging population, an educational system, traditions, beliefs. All of these may apply to your projects, they may not. But it's still worth to keep in mind the things happening around you, how may that present as a risk to what you are trying to achieve. Economics, unemployment, currency, low income families, lack of transport, and so on, so forth. There's a few things you can go on here. But if you're trying to deliver a project, but you're within a, let's say, an area with a lot of kind of low income, does this present a risk to the to you achieving your planned goals, your the expectations of the project? And if so, how can you overcome that? It may need to be slightly changing how you go about delivering your project. But the whole idea of this is that you are assessing risks and you are implementing changes where you can, okay? And we'll come on to measuring it later on. Health, simple one, obviously infections like COVID. If I take the United Kingdom, for example, if you're delivering a project, and I think there was a question here last time we met, if you're delivering a project that requires 50 people to meet together in a big church hall, COVID probably won't allow that. The risk of health currently isn't probably going to allow that to happen, certainly not in the UK, as we're limited, I think, in youth work to up to 25 young people and then possibly, let's say, 5 staff or something. So when you're looking at risk, think about health as well. Again, aging population, cold and flu seasons, the weather, all of that may come into play when you're looking at assessing risk. Technology, digital world, reliance on internet connections, lack of devices, all of this as well may come into play when you are looking at risk as well. So those are the external factors, but we move on to the internal factors as well. This revolves around people, governance, property, overall management, communication, and probably more, but we won't go into it all today. So similar to the last one for people, it is the motivation, not enough staff, illness, conflict of ideas. You may bring a group together, but actually a risk is that not everybody is on board, which means that you had a plan to start your project in, I don't know, February next year, but there's a risk that people aren't on board. So that may actually delay your project or put your project right back to what's it called? The drawing board, so to speak, where you need to relook at that. Obviously, we're all human. We lose motivation. That's a risk that some people may, you may want to identify. How do you overcome that risk? Let's have some energizers. Let's have a lot of kind of warm-up sessions, making sure the message, your aim, your goal is communicated. People are on board with your vision, and you're tackling the lack of motivation because you identified it as a risk. How do you overcome that? Some projects may seem not as exciting as others. How do you get people working on your project compared to others? How do you recruit volunteers? All of this is stuff that you can look into when you're working with people. Governance is risk with that is there may be a changing governance process, time allocated, somebody again changing their mind, which may impact your project. Property is that you may just not have a venue to deliver your project in. The venue might actually be the only place you could get is actually really old and the roof is about to collapse in. Are you going to choose to deliver your project there? Which goes back to, are you knowingly putting people in harm's way? So if they say this place is available, if you want to use this place, fine, but it is the roof may collapse in if there's a little bit of wind, why would you choose that? You'll need to obviously overcome that risk in order to deliver your project by probably getting a different venue. Damage, price to hire, all of these things you can take into account when looking at that. Overall management, conflict, change of mind, motivation, time, all relates to that as well. Communication, low attendance, lack of experience, don't have the right equipment in order to take part. All of these are things that you can keep in mind. Now, hopefully you can see from this is that you can go into quite a bit of detail identifying different risks, and you can spend a lot of time looking at, okay, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and you can spend all day creating this massive list. But when it comes to risk assessments, keep them quite specific to what you're doing. If you are going to be delivering a project on, I don't know, something that revolves you working in an office, but in your risk assessment, you have got a risk of bear attacks. That could be a risk if there's bears in your city, but really, is that realistic to the work that you're actually going to be doing? So you see what I mean? Keep it specific, keep it related to the work that you're actually going to be doing. How likely is it that this is actually going to happen? Maybe it is likely. We'll come on to how you can identify that. Makes sense so far? Hopefully it does. But as I said, this will be available for you guys to go over and digest in your own time and speak with your linked person. Okay. When looking at risk assessments, there's a 5-point system for implementing a risk assessment. And I'll only spend a little bit of time on this because we're going to go on to other stuff a little bit more practical in the short time that we've got. But first of all, you want to identify the hazards. You want to identify the risk. So what is it? Is it that bear attack? Is it the roof damage? Is it that you've got possibility of a lack of motivation? What is the risk? You want to identify that. Then you're going to decide who might be harmed and how. So remember, we're looking at it from a top-down view. So you're not just looking at it, is John possibly going to be harmed because he's leading a group, or is Adam going to get a paper cut because he's working at a printer? You're going to be looking at it from the whole kind of aspect of financial. How is this going to impact me financially? How is it going to impact the organization's reputation? How is it going to impact people's health, whatever it may be? You're looking at all of that. So decide who might be harmed and how. Evaluate the risk and decide on precautions. I put that in red because we're going to focus a little bit on this as we move on. But how do you measure it? How do you decide what to do if? So if there is likely going to be a bear attack, how do you overcome that? Or how do you eliminate or reduce that risk from happening? I should say at this point, the risk assessment slide was going to be a lot more complicated than it is just now. So I think I toned it down a little bit when we started to look at what we needed to get across. But we'll look at evaluating risks and deciding on precautions. You obviously want to record your findings and then implement them. So if you found this is a risk, it's a fairly low risk, but we can eliminate this risk by doing this. You want to record that and then go and do the action of eliminating that risk. The simple one that I tend to use as an example is you're walking on a path, a woodland path with, let's say, a group, and there's a tree or a log or whatever it may be that has fallen on your path. That presents a risk because some people may trip and fall on that log. The worst case scenario is somebody, let's say, trips, falls, and maybe breaks a leg or breaks an arm. So how do you prevent that? Well, the simplest way to do it is move that log or move the tree stump or whatever it may be that's blocking your way if you can do that. What are you doing by doing that? You're eliminating that risk, okay? So you've evaluated it, you decided on precautions, you've recorded it, and then you've implemented your findings by actually doing the actions to eliminate it if you can. Risk assessments are what we call fluid documents, which means that they don't just get done once and then filed away and never seen again. Risks change, things change. Our government had risk assessments for working, for all of us and working in the places that we work as public. But then COVID happened and we needed to change our risk assessments. We needed to put in social distancing and so on. So all of the health secretaries and all of the people that deal with this type of stuff, the public health, would have brought out their risk assessments and would have reviewed it and updated it based off the new risks that they found, in this example, COVID. So for you guys, if things change, bring out your risk assessments and change things as things go along. You always want to review them. I would normally say you can review them about 6 months after they're done. Some funders, donors, people that are putting expectations on may say, please review your risk assessments every 3 months, maybe every 12 months, whatever it is. But just know that these are fluid documents. Okay. Right. Measuring risk. Okay. This might seem a little bit complicated, but I'll talk you through it because when I first saw it, I was like, a lot of colors. I like colors, but how does this work? It's actually fairly simple. So when you're measuring risk, you've got this point right here. Am I able to use a pointer? How fun is that? Look at that. Can you see that? Yeah? Sweet. Amazing. Okay, so you've got the likelihood rating. You've got rare, unlikely, possible, likely, almost certain it's going to happen. Then you've got the consequences. What is the maximum reasonable consequence? Remember the log in your path example. What's the worst case scenario? Somebody tries to step over that, they trip, they fall, they break a leg, they've spent 3 days in the hospital, whatever it may be. So this is measuring what is the maximum reasonable consequence. Is it insignificant? Is it minor? Is it moderate? Is it quite major? And is it catastrophic, like, oh my goodness, okay? So you're just using, I've forgotten what the fancy English word is for that, but you're just measuring it. So if you've got something that you judge to be a possible risk, but you actually think that the maximum reasonable consequence, the worst case scenario, is actually quite moderate, you would go possible to moderate and you would land on medium. So when you're measuring your risk, no matter what it is, or whatever you are looking at, you would say that this risk I judge to be a medium risk based off this scale. It is possible, and the worst case scenario is sitting at quite moderate. Okay, we say that will then mean it's a medium risk rather than it being low, rather than it being high, rather than it being extreme. Okay, so let's go back to the log example. You're walking down a path, you've got a tree log in front of you. If you deem that to be likelihood of happening that somebody's going to trip and fall, it's almost certain if we try climb over this log in our path that somebody's going to trip and fall. The worst case scenario is that it's catastrophic. So if you're dealing with people, let's say the worst case scenario is that it is quite morbid, but it's death. You would deem it to be almost certain that something's going to happen, And the worst case scenario is that it's catastrophic. In that case, with people is the loss of life. It's extreme. Okay, so the risk we're measuring as very, very high, extreme. Okay, so it goes down to the question of why are you doing it? Why are you doing that? Can you completely eliminate it? If you can't, why are you putting people in the harm's way? Why are you putting that? Why are you allowing that risk to happen? Maybe you need to change your project, your approach, whatever it may be. Does this make sense so far? You can see I'm enjoying the pointer action, but does it make sense? Maybe give me a thumbs up if you're okay with this kind of model. Yeah. Nice one. Okay. Thank you. All right. So here are some examples of measuring risk. And we're going to go through a couple of examples ourselves. So you've got a risk identified as equipment failure. My laptop stops working. You've got personal injury. Somebody is going to get injured. Well site sabotage, loss of digital data, data log of failure. Okay. The likelihood and severity. So what is the worst case scenario and how likely is this going to happen? Equipment failure, likelihood, it's fairly medium. It could happen, it may not happen. Severity, what happens if your laptop stops working? You're judging it as being fairly low because I can maybe just go get another laptop. I can switch to an iPad, whatever it may be. The plan is, if that happens, in this example, is you can contact these people, whoever these people are. It's just ripped from the internet as an example, or you can go out and you can seek a repair, or the plan is use spare laptop, change to iPad available, whatever it may be, and that works specific to your project. Okay. Personal injury, this could always happen. Likelihood, somebody's judged it as pretty low. Severity, it can be fairly high. Remember, this is using the scale beforehand. The plan of action to eliminate it is that members are trained in risk management and wilderness first aid. If it occurs, seek medical attention. Make sure you've got a mobile phone on you to call the ambulance. Make sure somebody's first aid trained, I think is mentioned. Other stuff that you can put in place to reduce the risk. Okay. If the risk is too high, you can just either not do that or you can try to eliminate it altogether. Okay. So, based off these two slides, measuring the risk and looking at how we can put it into a wee table, this is an example of how you can do that yourselves. This is an example, maybe more so related to working with people. Okay, so you've got the hazard, anything that may cause harm. Who might be harmed? Think of everybody involved. So you've got your team, your volunteers, your people walking on the side of the road, whatever it may be near your activity. Think of everybody that could be harmed. Existing controls, what is in place already? How can you reduce what's in place already to reduce harm? Stuff like maybe handrails, other stuff that people may have in place already. Measuring risk, again, worst case scenario, likelihood. What can you do to reduce the risk even more? So if you've identified, I can go and move the log, well then let's go and move the log. When are you going to do that by? Who's going to do it? And when was it done? So this is an example of headlines that you can use if you're, let's say, putting a risk assessment in place specific to people. But I'm giving you these examples like this one, and I'm giving you this example, and I'm giving you that example. But depending on your funders, depending on your donors, they may have something completely different to this. They may use a completely different matrix. So this isn't the be all and end all. And especially for the people who have done risk assessments already, you've probably seen templates different to ones that I've maybe shown you today. But I think what's important here is to just kind of understand, let's start really questioning a lot of the stuff about our projects and where things could go wrong. And if things can go wrong, how can we eliminate that risk or reduce the risk? And if you can, when are you going to do that by? Whose responsibility is it? And when did you do it? Okay. You've also got here next review dates. Again, your funders, your donors, whoever it may be, and that's helping you deliver this may say review it in 6 to 12 months, review it in every month, 3 months, whatever it may be. But this is usually what you can use as an example. So lastly, let us quickly go through this as an example of doing our own risk assessment, okay, using this template. All right. So I'm going to need a bit of help from possibly the other facilitators to tell me what's here. But what will be most useful is if you can just shout out what you think could go in there. Okay. So I will fill it in. I'm possibly going to need to actually come out of this to edit it. Can you still see that?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So let's go with some examples here. So you've identified fire as a hazard. Okay. Who is at risk of fire? Just give me some examples.
You can switch your mics on and just shout as if you're in the room.
I'm also going to keep an eye on the chat. So if somebody, one of the facilitators can keep an eye on the chat.
People that live nearby.
Okay. So nearby people. Oh. Okay. Who else is at risk of fire? If you're delivering your project and a fire was to occur, who else is at risk?
Animals, equipment.
What's that, sorry?
Participants.
Participants. Somebody I think mentioned equipment is at risk here, so you can lose a lot of the equipment that you've got. Yeah.
Maybe animals.
Animals as well. Yeah. Okay. Who else may be at risk? If you are delivering the project with who? Are you doing it by yourself? Who else?
Everybody's at risk basically from fire.
You can almost say everybody. I guess you can justify everybody because fire is one of these things that could have a major impact, isn't it? So worst case scenario, I know it sounds quite morbid, but you can lose equipment, people not even involved in your project that are just walking by and all of a sudden a fire breaks out. They could be affected as well. Animals nearby if you're doing something outdoors, whatever it may be. So it's quite large. So what can you do to, what's in place to prevent fires from happening? What have you got? What are some examples? Let's have two maybe.
Fire alarms.
Exactly. What else?
We can consult the situation or the event with firefighters.
Fire drills. Okay. Let's go with another one. Yeah.
I can just read from the chat. Fire detector, check up on the space.
Yeah.
Also, consult with firefighters.
That's right. Yeah. I'm going to change that to inspect space, consult with, I'll say fire experts. Okay. So let's go on to measuring. Using this scale, what is your measurement of fire? So likelihood of rating and maximum reasonable consequence. Where would you rate fire? Knowing that you have everybody's at risk, there's things already in place to reduce fire, how would you then rate fire? What's your measurement?
I think it depends on the space you're using, though, I would say, because if you're using an indoor space, it's almost possible in every situation because you've got kind of electricity running.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
if
you're saying that it's
yeah,
you're saying that it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go with maybe possible.
Yeah, that would of course depend on the activity, but in general, low. This is from Adam.
Okay. 2 seconds. I'm just trying to get the chat up. Excuse my phone going off. Okay. And with the process in general, low. Okay. So are we saying that? Are we going with low in that case, or are we going with medium, high? What's the majority of people saying?
I would say like the likelihood would be possible, but then like consequences can be major or catastrophic.
So
like if you lose a person or you lose the space, so maybe like maybe the yellow one.
high.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just go with that for now because it doesn't need to be perfect at just now, but you guys definitely understand the learning. So we're saying that it's high. So what else can be done then? What else could be done to reduce this risk? So we know who's at risk. We know what's in place already. We're judging it to be quite a high risk. What can we do to reduce it further? What else could we do with fire?
Maybe like teach like what to do if there's a fire and how to exit the building, and if there's like preventative measures or like what type of fire can you put out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so educate is good.
Yeah, so that's one example. There's probably a few others that we can go into, but I'm just wary about the time that we've got.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to say, that we're already out. But may I say something here? I think that if we identify it as high or catastrophic, I think that the main question we need to ask ourselves, is it still worth doing it? Or we need to just cancel it and that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say with this, I know we've got some examples, but we can I can leave you guys to go over that in your own time. And yes, fire extinguishers probably will be handy. Yeah. Is I would remember that this is judgment. So if you judge it to be high, somebody else may not judge it to be as high or whatever it may be. So just make sure that you're confident and happy in the assessments that you put in. But that's obviously in relation to fire. There's other stuff like reputational risks, lack of resources to take part, stress that kind of not just focus on the people, that can focus on your project delivery as a whole and how it impacts your YMCA, how it impacts your reputation, whatever it may be. Okay. All right. So in the time that we've gone through a bit of stuff. Hopefully you understand the theory aspect, questioning things, measuring things, asking yourself, is it worth it? And there's a lot of information in here that you can hopefully go through in your own time, as you can see. But I'm going to leave it at that. Has anybody got any questions before I hand back to Olga, I think it is? Okay, let's leave it at that for now, and I'll hand back to Olga.
Matthew, thank you so much. This is so interesting, important, and comprehensive to my mind. Thanks a lot. Yeah, and before we go to budget, I think that we need to make 3 minutes break in case you need to take the tea. So 3 minutes, and we are quickly back for the budget. Thank you. Martina, you're a co-host now.
I completely lost track of time. I don't even know how far over I was, but.
Okay, Olga, give me a second. I have to close Zoom and open it again, okay? Because
Yeah,
it
sure.
doesn't allow me, okay? I'm just doing it. Okay, I'm back.
And you're a co-host again. So it means that you can share the screen. So guys, if you are back, please put your cameras on so we see that you are back. Yeah, Martina, most of people are back, so hardcore can start now.
Okay, so let's see if sharing works now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, how I will put it. Let's see, just a sec. What happened? Okay, let's do it different way.
Yeah, you can just open the PDF, or if you need my help, I can also open it quickly and share.
Fine, I'm doing it. Just a second. Now I have it. I have two screens, so
I see.
I don't know how to do it on two screens, but I'm coming to it. Okay.
So far, no?
Preview. Yeah. Okay, do you see it?
No, Martina, we see the black screen.
We see the
from your
chords.
computer.
Yeah. I will just,
Ultimate guitar.com.
Now it's saying that sharing is paused, but resume share.
No. Do you want me to put it?
But it should work. Is it working or not?
Now we see the last. You can stop and make it again.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is again guitar. Just stop it, and when you make it again, choose exactly the presentation, not the screen sharing.
Mm-hmm.
There is an option.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just okay. Let's do it.
Apologies, friends. Yes.
Okay. So, can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So hopefully it will work. So now the hard part is going. So if you think that everything was clear and easy now, I'm afraid that we are going to kill you quickly. But do not worry. I'm trying to do my best to introduce you how to make the budget in very logical way. So first, I would like to okay, it's not working like the presentation, but okay, it's not so important. To explain you why it is used and what is it, the budget. And the budget, very easily is saying, it tells you what the funder specifically want to see. You are requesting for funding, and it should be item by item. If the funder asks you to deliver the budget, he usually doesn't mean that he wants to see the lump sum, one sum, like we want to spend this amount of money on the project, but he wants to see the details. So also the grant budget is usually not your organizational budget. It means that into the project budget you usually include only the expenses and the income, which is covering the project and not the whole organizational budget. There might be some exceptions, but this is not our role right now to talk about this. So this is a very short explanation what the budget is. We will come to more details later on, but before we start, I would like to see what do you know, and if you are somehow if you know some of the specific words which are used in the budgets. We found that it's quite difficult to understand some terms, and we would like to explain it, and we will give you a small quiz. You understand? Are you with me?
Yes, yes. Thumbs up.
Yes,
and
we are. Yes, we are.
Perfect.
So,
and I'm ready to show the first question.
Yeah, I will explain you first. So, we are going to ask you how you understand some financial terms. We do not expect that you know them all. Just try to use your logic and find out what it is. Okay, so this is your only role right now. Be careful because the possible answers are multiple, so there are multiple correct choices.
Okay, so I'm putting up.
You can put the first question and just.
Do you see it?
Yes. So few more seconds, you just read it, and just put what do you think is in-kind costs or contributions. Okay. Okay, we will close the pool. So just, yeah, Ilan, yeah. Can I share the results or, yeah, okay, you do. Okay, I think you were very, very good in this because the correct answer is in-kind contributions are volunteer time or use of organizations' equipment and software and use of organization facilities. To explain you a little bit more is that in-kind items are the contributions your organization can make to the project without going outside to hire the services or purchase the goods. Main examples of this are, for example, employee time and benefits, use of equipment, use of materials, including software licenses, books, supplies. Volunteer time is one of the very typical one because this is a time which is, let's say, donated to the project. Then the facilities, rooms you are using for free, and also access to special support services such as technical consulting. Okay, is everything clear? Do you understand now?
Yeah, people are nodding.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Then we can go to the second question. Okay, so you can read. We are now talking about indirect costs or overheads. Again, the multiple choice. And please try to think what this can be and try to tip whatever you think is correct.
Nikas raised his hand.
Yeah, sorry, just to confirm something. I am stuck to the slide that says why it is used. I can't see anything else. Am I the only one?
Yes, yeah, but we will continue with the presentation in a.
All right, all right.
So
I thought we were supposed to see some questions on the slide. So sorry.
No. The questions are in extra pool. Can you see the question in the pool?
Which pool? Sorry.
So, Nikas, it looks like you are the only one who does not see the poll, yeah, because we are showing the questions and people are voting. Frankly speaking, I do not know how to solve it.
All right. I'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, probably, yeah, you can.
But please continue, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Leave and return, probably it will help.
Yeah, I can read the choices if you want. So indirect costs or overheads can be translation, heating, light or bathroom facilities, administration costs, even catering, or calculated as percentage of the total grant budget. So 14 people voted, so we give you 5 more seconds. Okay, then we close the poll. Okay, so you're right, of course, with heating, lighting, bathroom facilities, and the administration costs. What is not correct is translation, because this is usually the direct costs of the project and even catering as well. And also, surprisingly, nobody voted for the last option, and this is totally correct because the indirect costs or overheads are usually calculated as percentage of the total costs. And why I'm talking about the indirect costs, even if this is not a very usual item, but it's very often allowed in EU grants. In many EU grants, you find the item overhead costs or indirect costs, where you can put the percentage of the total project for these costs. Indirect costs are difficult or impossible to assign to the specific project by the definition, which means that it is mostly heat, lighting, bathroom facilities, chairs and desks, administration, or they are sometimes also called overheads. They are usually calculated as a flat rate or a percentage of the total grant budget, and they are almost never allowed in private or foundation grants. In European Union, they usually give you 7% of the grant budget in the bigger problems for the administration or overhead costs. Okay, is it understood? Can we go to the next question? Good. Thank you. Next question then. So now we have eligible expenses, again, multiple choice. So the choices are costs declared and covered under another project, debts necessary for project implementation, exchange losses, or identifiable and are identifiable and verifiable. Okay, 12 people voted, so let's have 10 more seconds and close the poll.
Yeah, 14.
Okay. Yes, I think you were, most of you were correct in this. Exactly these two choices are the most important one. Necessary for the project implementation. Eligible costs are necessary for project implementation, and they're identifiable and verifiable. It means that you can very clearly identify those costs and verify them by some kind of proof, a bill on the invoice or any kind of paper. One more important thing which is qualifying for eligible expenses is that they comply with the legal requirements. We will repeat this one more time in the presentation because this is very important issue. Thank you. Now the next question.
Here it is. Yep.
Yeah, so the next question about the personnel. This is one item which is very often in the budget. And the choices: net salaries, volunteer time, salaries, and wages, including all insurances. Okay, let's close the poll because I see that 14 people already voted. Yeah, thank you. So, of course, the right answer is the last one, the only one: salaries and wages, including all the insurances. This is very important, that the personal choice, personal mean people, staff, or crew costs, salaries and wages. This is not about volunteers at all. Personnel is for the paid staff. And of course, in this case, also all the costs should comply with the legal requirements. And they should also include all costs and benefits which are legal in the specific country, especially, for example, also the meal tickets. If the employer is providing according to the law the meal tickets, you should include them to the budget. The same could be the next example, for example, is in some countries, if you have young staff, and they have babies, you have to provide the babysitting for the babies. And in this case, you have to hire the babysitter, and the costs have to be included in this in the budget as well. Understood? Thank you. Let's do the last question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the last one is flat rate. This is something very specific. And what do you think? Is it the flat rate? 65 euros per day, 30 cents per kilometer, or travel costs from 100 for 500 to 2000 kilometer distance is 275 euros. What do you think is flat rate? Again, multiple choice. Okay, we close the poll now. Okay, the correct answer is very easy. All three of them are correct. All three, because flat rate, it means fixed rate or straight or final. I don't know if there are any other words in English which can be used for this. But in principle, it means that the donor usually gives you a rate which you can claim. So for example, if you want to organize the event, you can claim 65 euros per day per participant. Or you can pay participants the travel costs, but you have to, they can claim only 275 euros flat rate. For the distance between 500 and 2000 kilometers. Also, 30 cents per kilometer is flat rate for the car, of course, for the reimbursement of the petrol. So, I hope this is clear and we can come back to the presentation. Okay, sorry, I have the visitor. Good. So, are you with me?
Yes, yes, we can see the presentation.
Okay, good. So now we have the budget and we understand why it is in there. I will mention few key concepts of making the budget. First, the project budget should fully correspond to the narrative parts. Of course, it's usually the activities which is the most important part connected to the budget, but also you have to look into the evaluation and monitoring part because there might be some more activities which should appear in the budget as well. What is also important is to see what the donor requires you to do, because for example, this is the best example of this is if the donor requires that your project is audited in the end. You have to put it into the budget as well, even if it's not in your plans, you have to put it to your plans and you have to put it to the budget as well. You have to be realistic. Please do not ever estimate or overestimate or underestimate. This is very important because if you overestimate, people can see it. Usually they know what are the prices approximately. They can check it anytime. And if you overestimate, you will be also into trouble with the reporting. Of course, if you underestimate, this is also not good because then you don't have enough money for your project and you will have to find another sources, and this is quite complicated. Don't make up the figures, get the real costs. We will come to this later, how to get the real costs. There are many options, many possibilities how to get the real costs. Then, and this is probably the most important one, is follow the grant provider instructions. If you have the questions, ask. Usually the grant provides you with the instructions, what he is ready to finance and what he is not. You have to study it first. Do not put into the budget anything just what you think is okay, but check first with the grant provider. Then in the budget you have to cost out all your organization's expenses, what you will plan to spend on the project. Usually both in kind and cash, but also depends on the provider. You have to also list the income, so both costs or expenses and the income as well. Usually, if there are no other instructions, income and expenditure should be balanced. When you are presenting a project, you have to have in your mind how you will cover all the expenditure by the income. It means that even if you ask the grant to pay you some amount of money, and which doesn't cover the whole project, you have to indicate where do you cover the rest from. If you are not sure yet, you can just put, okay, if we don't get money from anywhere else, we can still use our funds to cover the rest of the project. But you have to have some idea how to balance the budget and how to cover all the expenditures by income. Everything you do in the budget, you have to be comprehensive and double check. This is very important, because if you forget to put any cost, they will be absorbed by your organization. This is what I said, for example, the good example is this audit. When you just forget to put it, you have to do it anyway, and you have to pay for it by your own sources. In the budget, it's very important to double check everything, and several times, I tell you, because whatever you do, you find the mistakes and you have to double check, and it's very good to cooperate with other people on the budget, so 4 eyes can see more mistakes and they can still correct it. Are you okay so far? Or are you sleeping already?
Everything is okay. People are even smiling.
Okay, good.
Yes, we are.
Good. So, how to estimate expenditure? I told you already that you have to try to find the real prices. There are many ways how to do it in this board. It's one of them, I made groups of them just to give them some logic. So first group I put is find current prices, and usually on the internet. There are many ways how to do it. There are online shops, there are website price lists, but also there are many prices which you don't find on the internet. For example, when you have a group of 30 people, which are you have to have for 5 days a good hotel for them, you usually don't find price on the internet. You need to contact them and ask. You can ask them to provide you a quote, to give them the details what you are planning, and they will make prices for you. Also, you can organize tender. You can ask several hotels in the surrounding to give you the offer and to see which one is offering you the best prices. Also, the other way how to do it is to analyze. You have a lot of contracts usually in the office. There is accounting, so where you can see the history of the prices. Contracts are very useful, especially with the staff, salaries and wages, rent of the offices, insurances. You pay it usually every year, so it's easy to find the data and analyze them. Also, you can analyze the reports, historical reports, or similar projects, projects of other organizations. Of course, it is also important, as I mentioned, to analyze the taxes and labor laws, because somehow they may give you some, this is what I mentioned in personnel, that they can give you the obligations, for example, to pay also the meal tickets and babysitting and any kind of other costs which you have to pay and put into the budget as well. Then the last group I made is more connected, like how to do it. It's very also good to start with the small things. So you have to list all the items you need, make an estimate and find the total. In the budgets of the donors, usually you don't have too many space for too many details. So don't do it, don't put every pen, every paper, everything what you would like to buy in the budget. Put there the total amount for the material, for example, but you can make somewhere the list what you need and try to estimate the items. If you make such lists and calculations and you make the notes how you made the calculation, my advice is please keep it. Do not throw it away, because very often it happens that the donors come to you with the questions and you can answer them. Also, if you win the project, it's very good if you remember what was included in there, because when you don't remember, then suddenly it's very difficult you have to start again. So now we estimated our expenditures, and we will talk a little bit more about the funders' requirements. We have usually the funders that they have different types of the budget. So they know, and you have to distinguish between them. It's budget of the grant you're applying for. This is what I also mentioned already before. You have only the budget for the grant. You have the budget of the whole project, which doesn't have to be necessarily the same, and the overall operational budget. The budget of the grant you're applying for, it's only the money which you plan to donor to ask for. But very usually the donors would like to see the overall budget of your project, including the other income and other expenditures which are not covered directly by him. It's also important to know that the donors, especially with the big projects, they also may ask you to provide you the overall operational budget on the top, because they are interested also how your company is or organization is doing, and they would like to see the whole budget of the organization. So now we are in the eligible expenses. You remember that we were already talking about it. So this is, I will just summarize once again what are eligible expenses. You may find very different vocabulary for this in different languages, also in American English, in British English, in European English, and in whatever English we are using. They can have different name, but I'm using eligible costs, especially because of the European Union grants, which are using this term. And many organizations are already taking the words from the European Union for their grants. So this is probably the most used expression. So eligible expenses are incurred during the project period, indicated in the budget, necessary for the project implementation, identifiable and verifiable, comply with the legal requirements, reasonable, justified, and comply with the principle of the good financial management. As I said, real prices, no overestimated, not underestimated. and they are of course not covered by other grants. So this is what the donors hate to see, is if you are asking them to cover something what is covered by another grant. Please don't do it. It's a double financing, and they really don't like it. Now we have eligible expenses again, but with very concrete examples. I have done two categories of those. One is what the donors usually accept, and one is what you really have to check if they accept it or not. In general, the first part is something what is really accepted in smaller projects. So for example, if you apply for the grant for smaller activities like event or training or any kind of gathering. On the other hand, then we have much bigger projects, like 1 year projects or 3 years projects, which are covering many activities and so on. So usually in the smaller scale projects, the first part is eligible expense, and the second part is eligible expense also in the bigger projects. So usually, as I said, in the smaller project, they usually accept event costs, accommodation, catering, rent, travel costs, materials and supplies, contractual services, translation, speakers, research, or postage, communication, bank charges, hours for volunteers, any kind of small costs which you can verify. But in the bigger projects, they usually also accept personal costs, which means staff, which we already talked about, constructions, renovation, equipment, depreciation, contingency reserve, external audit, indirect costs. This is what we were talking already about, or in-kind costs, which also we were talking about. So, and on the other side, you also have ineligible expenses. When you have eligible, you also have ineligible expenses. And this is usually the costs which the donor is writing, and if this is on the list, please never ever put it in the grant application, because they really do not accept this. And these are just the examples which can be on the list, but you also can expect, for example, in some projects, you can also expect that on this list you will find, for example, personnel costs, because there are some projects where the personnel costs are not allowed as well. So they can be put within the eligible costs or ineligible costs, or, for example, equipment. They are also the foundations which don't give you money for the equipment or reconstruction. Then it can be on the other list. This is also the reason why I put the question mark here. So this is about eligible and ineligible costs, and now we are coming to the income. Income is, in fact, how much money should I apply from the funder? This is sometimes a very tricky question. Usually the funders, they give you at least the range of the money. For example, we can give you from 5,000 to 10,000 euros, or we can give you from 100,000 to 300,000 euros. And this is a very big difference. You have to apply for the project which is fitting in your project budget. If you are applying for 10,000, do not apply for the grant, which is giving you 100,000 minimum. And there are some donors like this. So you have to study what the funder is able to give you. And of course, choose the right funder for your size of the grant. Also, income side answers what part of the budget should be financed from other sources. The donors, they usually would like to know that they are not the only one who are financing the project. And this is very logical because the others are also sharing the responsibility, and somehow they are not investing the only ones into your project. If you have any other donors or any other people who are bringing money or in-kind costs to the project, show it, because it gives your project credibility. And it also means that other people and organizations, they want to invest in your project. And this is very important for them. So now we were going through the expenses and the income. And now I'm going to present you very quickly, because we are running out of time, the forms of the budget. And I will show you the examples, how they are done, because you will understand also how to do your homework afterwards. So sometimes the funder provides you the template of the budget. If they do it, please use it. Do not use your own, just do his own template and put the budget there. There are some donors who also tell you, okay, you do the budget yourself and you use your own template. Yes, please, in that case, you can use some kind of Excel file or any other file. And it is important also, if you have this possibility, maybe you can somehow do in the same template as you have the organizational budgets, because this will help you in the future with your project finances as well. And then there is the last one. This is again what we were talking about, flat rates template. I will show you one. I'm talking about this because also the European Union is using this template quite a lot. So you know what it is when you see it. So very quickly, I chose this example. This is a session, the budget of the session, a little bit modified, which we had to have in Slovakia in June this year. How it was done. So for you, this is the European Youth Foundation budget in their own template, which they provided. As I said, it's a little bit simplified, but in principle, this is what we applied for already. So you can see that there are several lines: travel accommodation fees, expert fees, materials, administrative costs, and other costs. And in this grant, they are not allowed the personal costs and the equipment costs. You can hire equipment, but you cannot buy it. And they are in-kind contributions allowed, but very specific one, it's just a volunteer time to show how much you invested or your volunteers invested into this project. You can see it in the end of the expenditure side. And also there is the income side, where there are different sources of the income. One is, well, again, if you have this volunteer time, which was donated by the volunteers, it should be also in the income side. Then we have the participation fees, and then we have YMCA Europe internal sources and funds. And then we have the grant which we are going to request, which according to their conditions can be maximum 2/3 of the projects. So this is also how they do it. Very often the donors, they say, okay, we are not going to finance more than 2/3 of your project costs. The rest you have to find somewhere else. So this is the example of the budget where the donor gave us the form, and we have to fill it in. Then I have this one, and I would like to you to put the attention to this one, because we will do something very similar for your homework. This is a bigger project for 1 year. So they are a little bit different lines, and this is your own format. And if you have your own format, like how to do it, what kind of details to put this. And this is a kind of the example you can see before you start to work on your budgets. So you put the salaries, contracted services, supplies, equipment, travel, or any other budget lines. You describe all of them with very short description. It should be short and comprehensive. You put the total costs, and you put the grant amount you would like to ask a donor to contribute. And then, of course, I didn't put the income side because it is in fact the same as before. List all the sources plus what you request to get as a grant. So this is another type of the budget. And the last example, as I promised, is this EU Erasmus grant, where you have the flat rates. This is what they usually do. It's the online form. So you just click on countries, participants, you just choose, and the system is doing counting for you. It's very easy and very handy if the internet is working, of course. When not, or the system is falling, it's not so easy anymore. But in principle, it's very easy because you just choose how many participants from each countries you would like to have, what are the travel costs, distance band, how long they will travel, and it will give you exactly how much you can charge. And in the end, you get the total of the grant. You can have also some kind of exceptional costs like visas and so on added to the grant, but in principle, this is the very, very easy example of flat rate budget, and I hope you understand now what does it mean when you see this. As we are running out of time, I will leave this for your study at home because this is very easy, and I think the examples are self-explaining. And this is the last sheet, is what you have to do before submitting the grant. And what is my tip, and I find it very important, don't do it on the last minute. Never do the whole project, but especially the budget on the last minute. Because you make a lot of mistakes. You please finish this at least 1 day earlier. Use other people to look at it, because the 4 eyes can see much more than you. And if you make the mistakes in the budgets, it's look like very amateurish, I have to say. Think especially what is missing, and check again in the end if the budget corresponds with the narrative part. Because it may happen that when you were making the budget, you found that, for example, it is not realistic to have 30 participants because we can afford only 27. You just make the change in the budget, but then you have to return back to the beginning of the project and to make changes there as well. So when you finish the project and the budget, return again and check again if all the numbers are corresponding. So, and double check also all figures and summaries, balances, if everything is correct. It's very easy to make a mistake, and especially when you make the corrections and you don't do it everywhere, then there are very easy mistakes. And the last thing is when you have, when the positive thing will happen, then you win the grant. Of course, first you have to celebrate. This is very important. But then you have to come back to the real work, plan cash flow of the project, because it's very, very often happens that the cash flow, you don't get money immediately and in time to start the project. So you have to plan how to finance the project before you get money, or right now when you get money, because sometimes the donors give you money in the installments. So this is very important thing which you have to sort. Find what evidence you need for reporting. Prepare to report before you start with the project. Otherwise, you're in a big trouble, and you have to know what evidence you have to keep. And also plan how to manage the finances. So, I think I am done with my presentation. Thank you for listening, and sorry it was so long and it is so late, and I hope you can still somehow survive a few more minutes while we explain what will be the next. And you can contact me anytime with any question you have. You have my contact, and you can contact me if you need any advice or any help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. And thank you, dear broken but strong people. I really appreciate that you haven't left the meeting. Apologies that it is taking a little bit more time. So very quick evaluation poll. So for us to know, first of all, do you feel like you will make the budget of your project? We ask you to evaluate this session. Yes, easily. Yes, I think I know how to make the budget. I'm not sure. I have no idea how to make the budget. Please choose one. And the second question will be about the whole, like this small first part of our project. How to say it already in so late evening, about our 4 seminars on projects. Yes, and you can choose multiple variants here, how you feel about 4 online press sessions on project applications. Interesting to know. Are the leaders useful to hear? I knew all that information before. I love the project I'm developing. I'm not sure I will complete the project. I was bored often, looking forward to continue education. I don't think I want to continue education. I'm excited about it. Other, and the person will please type to the chat if it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Okay, so we have 15 people, and yeah, and we can see now how people feel. So there are some people who are not sure yet that they can complete their budgets, and some people have no idea how to do it. So please get in touch with Martina. We will explain everything of what is needed.
Yes, please just try to go again through the steps and try to think how to do it. And if there is any problem, just contact me. I'm sure that we will find a way.
I'm so happy to hear that no one is going to drop the education. This is the most important for me. Okay, thank you for it. And the last but not the least is the roadmap. So this is the plan that we suggest to you, and we suggested to the donors. It is not approved yet. You understand that the January session is not possible. We cannot travel, we cannot meet. So this is the reason why, and this is about like risk assessment. We didn't know about the risk of COVID, so we could not anticipate, and we are changing the plans constantly. So that would mean for all of us that we need to organize the first session in online format, and it will happen during January and February. We will start in January. Yes, so far, we keep the offline session in March and in June in Malta. Yeah, we are really hesitant about March session, but let's have hopes. If not, again, we will transfer it to online. And the homework stays the same, like the mini projects, you already have done them actually, but you're going to implement them. After the second session, we will introduce governance, and we'll ask you to make very small homework, the meetings on governance in your YMCAs, and advocacy campaigns after the third session. With the mini projects, what we are doing, we have asked the donors to support the projects financially. So if they agree with this idea, we will organize the contest and with certain criteria, and if they are successful, yes, so you can get some small amount of money in order to implement them. We keep our fingers crossed, so it happens. We think it should be a good bonus to the great work that you are doing now. And so this is an important thing. We will write you more in details about it, but I want really to explain you it in words. So you see how difficult it is to really like to listen to the theory. We do not have time for discussion, and so we meant it for these 4 meetings, but we do not want it happens again in such a format. This is the reason why we are going to put most of the theoretical information to unsynchronized study process. It means that it will be in some e-learning platforms where you will go in your time, yeah, when you can, at night, at day, at lunchtime, yes, and do sometimes. You will watch some video, you will complete some tasks, there will be some joint discussions within the group, and so on and so forth. But of course, this is not interactive at all. This is just theory. It will be there. We want us to communicate and discuss this theory. This is the reason why we are introducing 4 meetings, like 2 short ones and 2 long ones. We really want to start with some informal presentation of your projects that will be definitely done, yeah, by the end of the year. And it will be 1.5 hours for us just to talk about them, to present. Then we will meet in January for the main big online interactive session on youth participation, civil society organization, its mission, and we will discuss. There we will mostly like talk, speak, mini groups, different platforms, so on and so forth. In February, we want to invite you to a very informal evening, like TED Talks, where you can share really who you are, like what you can, what you want, and we will write more about this format, but definitely you know what TED Talks. So this is a meeting just to know each other better and spend the evening together. And on February 27th, again, you see that this is Saturday, yeah, because it should be the big, yeah, session. It will be a session on some topics of the project and evaluation, and yeah, we will finish with the topic of youth participation there. We will write the time of these big sessions, but they will be with breaks, with bigger breaks, so for 4 or 5 hours approximately. Okay, so this is a tentative plan. We really hope that we have not scared you with it so much, because we do not know how to introduce the education having only like a short session. So we decided to try the format of bigger ones. If it doesn't work, of course, we will change the format. The last, of course, like when at the end of the third session, we are going to give you the certificates, and we will give the certificates to people who are going to fulfill the homework. Attend like most of the sessions. We understand that it's not possible to attend everything. You are busy, you have your own life, yeah, but you are going to watch them, yeah, some of you, and your active participation will show us if you have watched them, if you are doing the homework or not. Yeah, that's it. So, open microphone. If you want to tell something to us, to ask, to tell, this is the time to do it. Francesca, do you want? No?
It was just bye. Thank you.
So, is there anyone who finds the idea of Saturday longer sessions like very scary? Please show it somehow like this. If you find it's okay for you, you will manage, show it like this. If you don't know, show like this, please. Okay, okay. Gabriel is in shock. Nea, Anna. Peter is okay. Nikas, I have missed. Perfect. Okay, 100% not shocked. Thank you so much. So it's time to finish. Please enjoy the evening. I have made a couple of photos. Yeah, sending my warmest hugs from Belarus to you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.